Emily McCann, and I'm co-president and chief negotiator of Graduate Assistants United here at the University of Florida. I'm a doctoral candidate in the English department, and I lead 3 discussion sections. For this labor, I earn $5,000 a semester. For the privilege of doing so, I'm charged $700 odd per semester, or 14% of my pay. Frequently, I do feel privileged to work at UF. Lucky to be at UF, lucky to work with bright and hardworking students and renowned faculty. But just as frequently, I know that UF should also count its lucky stars for its graduate employees. UF works because we do. That's right. So, what is it that we do? We teach classes. Introductory classes, large classes, but also upper division courses. I've taught, designed, and delivered instruction in an upper division course, and so has my co-president, Kevin Funk. We also do a large amount of the research that drives research dollars to this university. A lot of what makes UF great in terms of the quality of its instruction and research happens through graduate employee labor. So, this is what we do. What I want to tell you next is what we can't do because of fees. Graduate employee fees are something that every graduate employee pays in order to work. You can't work at UF as a graduate assistant unless you pay your student fees. These student fees have gone up 110% over the last 6 years. At UF at least, we've only gotten nominal raises in that time. Indeed, although we're very grateful for the 4.4% raise we won last year at the bargaining table, much of that raise for a lot of people was recouped by these fees. So, here are things that grad students can't do because of fees. This is a testimonial from one of our students. I earn slightly over $18,000 annually, and the required $700 plus in semesterly student fees place a huge burden on my life. It comes to about 13% of my total salary, not including what I have to pay in taxes, said a graduate student in anthropology and assistant in biology. He was one of the many students who submitted a testimonial after GAU asked UF assistants how the fees affect their lives. As he said further, I have to pay rent, utilities, internet, car insurance, and other expenses as they arise. I live a frugal lifestyle, and these fees make sudden expenses, like having to buy a new laptop and getting my car fixed, impossible tasks. Now, I really need fees to be lowered or taken away so that I can focus on my education and not stress about whether I'll have money to pay the electricity bill. That extra rent, extra $1,400 is the equivalent of 3 months' rent. Consider a further testimonial. My name is Jeff, and I'm a PhD student within the Environmental Engineering Department. Based on my required enrollment for classes, I paid $1,450 in student course fees this year, which accounts for about 9% of my salary before taxes. Without this money, I had to skip a conference to present research, which I wished to participate in. Additionally, I was given an opportunity to do guest scientist research in the Atlantic Ocean during the summer, which I will have to turn down due to the inability to pay for it. This is research that not only would have benefited the university, but myself, as well as it would be emergent research on plastic pollution in oceans. These are just the tip of the iceberg for the effects that graduate student fees have. For example, for student parents who are trying to raise their children and work as graduate students, oftentimes they can't afford childcare. Imagine how difficult it would be to write your dissertation if you were distracted by a 2-year-old about every 30 minutes. It would really cut into your productivity. If UF cares about the quality of the research we do, of the teaching we perform, and our time to graduation, they'll get rid of fees. It's time.
Thank you, Emily. Can you hear me? No?
Right into it.
How about now?
No.
No?
It was up a minute ago.
This is the light.
First start coming.
Yes. Now? Can you hear me?
The same.
Just
Yeah.
The same?
Oh,
Ah, okay. Now.
So thank you all for coming here. My name is Kevin Funk. I'm one of the co-presidents of GAU here at the University of Florida, and I also teach my own class in the Department of Political Science. It is an advanced writing-intensive undergraduate class. It is a class that I myself designed and that I love to teach. I take great pride in my teaching, and yet I do not feel that my employer, the University of Florida, takes the same pride in me. In fact, I feel unappreciated. I feel unappreciated because while the University of Florida administration cannot stop talking about the campaign to become a top 10 public university, it has nothing to say about the fact that graduate assistants must skip academic conferences and fall behind in paying the rent just so they can pay fees back to the university. UF tells us that they don't have the money to offer us fee relief, but that's just not true. When UF decides to give administrators, such as Provost Joe Glover, a $50,000 raise, is it ever unable to find the money? When UF decides that it needs $5 million, literally $5 million, to renovate the current president's house, and in fact build a new house for President Machen, does it have trouble scraping together enough loose change? No, it does not. Last night, in fact, I visited the official website of UF Rising, the site of the university's campaign to become a top 10 public university. The very first lines of that website read, and I quote, "UF has more than a goal to establish itself as one of the nation's best public research universities. It has a plan. It's backed by nearly $1 billion. But apparently, we are not part of that plan. It's really a simple question of priorities. And the fact is that we are not a priority for them. I sincerely hope that UF becomes a top 10 public university. But UF's rising fortunes should lift all of our boats. Right now, unfortunately, our boats are sinking due to the fees that we must pay. I want to close with a clear message to President Machen and the rest of the UF administration. You will not build a top 10 university on the backs of underpaid and overworked graduate assistants. In fact, at the University of California, Berkeley, the #1 public university in the United States, graduate assistants are exempt from paying fees. President Machen, we are asking you to make us a priority. Include us in your $1 billion plan. And stop using fees. Stop making us pay fees and pushing us below the poverty line. Thank you.
My name is Tom Oxter. I'm a philosophy professor at this university, and I'm also statewide president of United Faculty of Florida. And I must say that it's happened all across the state, and especially at UF, that we have put our graduate assistants at a very great disadvantage by multiplying the kinds of fees that we have and adding them on every semester. $700 a semester is an outrageous amount to come out of your paycheck in order to subsidize the University of Florida. It shouldn't need that kind of assistance in order to operate. We all know there are funds available. This is not the kind of... we all know that there's money available to cover these expenses. That's all right. We know the university has the money to be covering these expenses. That's not an issue. The university has plenty of money to cover these expenses. It's a question of priority and what is it that you think is important to fund at the University of Florida. If you think it's not important to fund the research and the teaching that graduate assistants do for the small paycheck that they get, and if you think you can just take an income tax of 10% or more right out of their pocket just in order to have a job that they are holding, then you ought to think twice, because they're already paying income tax in another way, and you shouldn't be having an income tax at the University of Florida as an add-on. I'll tell you, the top 10 public universities don't do that. Berkeley, University of California at Berkeley doesn't do it at all. No fees. University of Michigan, $80 per semester, period. That's it. That's all you're paying in fees. Not $700 a semester. So if you want to join the top 10, why don't you join the top 10 in the kind of way that you support graduate assistants? Because they are doing the work of the university just as much as anybody else is doing insofar as teaching and research is needed. And I want to tell you something. Faculty don't do everything in teaching and research. Faculty rely on graduate assistants to do much of what happens. And their role is central to what we do. It's central to the teaching of courses, it's central to the education of students, it's central to the research that we are performing, it's central to the laboratories that we are running. They are the centerpiece of all the work that we are doing, right beside faculty, right there doing the teaching and the research at the university. Why it is that we think that we can pile on the expenses and never raise the salaries and make a miserable experience out of being here. Well, I'll tell you what happens when you attract people with false promises. When there's no transparency about what's happened, when you say, oh, come here, we'll give you tuition free and we're going to give you this $17,000 annual salary, and then all of a sudden there's $1,400 piled onto that expense, and they find out that you have lied to them about what the deal is, and it's not even in the fine print that you're going to pay these fees. It's not even in the fine print of your letter of acceptance. So what are you going to do when you're here? You're going to not pay your bills, you're going to not accept research offers for the summer, you're going to not have anything going for you in addition to having to have at least 4 areas of competence that you have to cover, different areas inside your major field. You're going to have to be able to teach and know what is being said in those courses, not just your specialization. You're going to have to define a specialized topic. You're going to have to defend a dissertation. You're going to have to be taking courses and teaching courses at the same time. You're going to have to be covering the bills for all of this. And then the university does what? They drain out 10% of the income that you have. This is not the way to treat the graduate assistants at a serious university. So let's talk about who has responsibility for this. And who has responsibility for this is the University of Florida Board of Trustees. And if they're always saying, oh, we're trying to make it into the top 10, if you want to make it into the top 10, why don't you support graduate assistants in a way that is typical of the top 10 and not punish them and drive them away if in fact they can't make all the conditions of work that you have made impossible for them to cover. They shouldn't have to borrow even more money after their undergraduate education in order to subsidize this, and sometimes it's not even possible to borrow more money after that. So I call on the Board of Trustees to end fees now. We need to be serious about being a top 10 university if we're going to give lip service to it. End fees now.
This month, over 2,000 graduate employees at USF will scrape the bottom of their empty checking accounts or charge their high-interest credit cards to pay their university fees, which can cost almost $1,000. The average PhD student at USF earns $7,000 per semester and will pay an average of $800 in fees, or roughly 12% of their income. Because of fees, graduate assistants often take dire measures just to make ends meet. Here's what one graduate assistant does to make her payments. I'm one of those graduate students who lives without the aid of a student loan, so each semester my stipend is what pays those fees. Sometimes it takes me the better part of the semester to clear the bill, paying $50 or $75 at a time because it's all I can afford. It also means I always end up paying the $100 late fee because I can't clear the account in time for the deadline. I live paycheck to paycheck with extreme budgeting, 2 weeks at a time with little room to make savings. Some graduate employees earn so little that they qualify for state assistance. Another graduate employee told us, I'm a first-generation college graduate from a low-income family. I struggle to pay even the most basic expenses each month without my graduate assistantship. I'm currently on food stamps. In fact, I qualified for expedited food stamps due to the low income I received from my GA stipend. Stories like this are not uncommon. Because of fees, graduate employees don't get the chance to present their research at conferences. Can you imagine spending sleepless nights in the lab analyzing data, writing research reports, or doing field work, and then missing the opportunity to present your research at a conference? One GA from USF said, I've been skipping meals both on campus and home in order to ensure I have enough money to pay the bills as well as childcare. The on-campus childcare is totally inadequate, so I have to pay for it out of pocket when my partner travels for work. It is highly unlikely that I will be able to afford to attend any conferences this year because my fees at USF eat up 1.5 paychecks. We are talented, dedicated teachers, researchers, scientists, and educators, and we do it all with love. We love our universities and our professions, and we serve our state with dedication and excellence. We love our students' electric enthusiasm. We love staying up late grading their midterms, and we love pulling all-nighters in our lab. We love poring over spreadsheets and carefully analyzing statistical output. We love properly labeling our axes, and we love precise, deliberate rhetoric. We love USF, and it's time for USF to love us back. USF works because we do, and it's time for USF to end graduate employee fees.
Hello, my name is Kerr Ballinger, and I'm a PhD candidate in the mathematics department at Florida State University. At Florida State, we have some of the lowest stipends in the state of Florida, at $4,400 for 10-hour-a-week employees and $8,800 for those that work 20 hours a week. Our fees for 12 credit hours can run upwards of $900 a semester. That means $1,800 for fall and spring. That works out to be 41% of the minimum stipend if you work 10 hours a week, 20% for those that work 20 hours a week. Our school estimates our cost of attendance to be $15,842 rather. That means that on not including fees, people that work 20 hours a week have to scrape up an additional $7,042 just to pay for their cost of living. Those that work less, $11,442 every 9 months. Where do you think that money comes from? Maybe parents, maybe an additional job, most likely student loans. We are not able to pay our fees up front because most of us don't get a paycheck until the second, third, fourth week of class. And so we are forced to take out additional loans, adding to the student debt crisis. A lot of us aren't allowed to work multiple jobs, and a lot of us don't get these paid for by our parents. So some of our GAs are forced to consider whether we continue on or we have to drop our education because of this undue burden on our graduate assistants. So FSU works because the GAs do, and this is why we are here to call for the end of fees. Thank you.